Welcome back, deep divers. Ready to plunge into another fascinating topic today?
Always excited to dive in.
Me too. So, a lot of you have been asking about alternative cancer treatments, so we're going to tackle that today.
Definitely a hot topic with lots of different opinions out there.
Absolutely. And to help us navigate it all, we're looking at this document by Dr. Carlos Monteverde.
Yo Tuviere Cancer. Right.
That's the one. It's basically his personal take on what he'd do if he was diagnosed with cancer today.
Yeah, I found it really interesting how he kind of lays out his whole philosophy.
Yeah, and he doesn't shy away from, challenging some conventional ideas. Right from the start, he asks, what if cancer isn't primarily caused by genes?
That's a pretty bold statement right there.
Right, and he even points to the work of this guy, Dr. Dennis Noble, who argues against that whole faulty genes thing.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Dr. Noble. He's kind of a big deal in the field.
Yeah, so what's the gist of Noble's argument?
Well, he basically says that genes are only part of the story.
Yeah.
It's more about these complex interactions within our cells and how the environment can influence, which genes are turned on or off.
So it's not like just having a bad gene, it's about the whole system.
Exactly. Think of it this way, genes are like instruments. Like they need a conductor, like the whole orchestra to make music.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So there's got to be more to it than just our genes.
And there's actually there's a lot of evidence to support that, like epigenetics, for example.
Epigenetics. Now remind me, what is that again?
Basically, it's how environmental factors can actually change gene expression without changing the DNA itself.
So something like diet or stress could actually switch genes on or off.
Exactly, yeah. And that really challenges that whole focus on gene-based therapies.
Right, because if it's not just about the genes themselves.
It might explain why those therapies haven't been as successful as people hoped.
Which is interesting because Dr. Monteverde himself, he's actually pretty skeptical of those gene therapies, too. He even suggests that some are more focused on profit than, actually addressing the root causes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid concern. Are we really getting to the heart of the problem or just managing symptoms?
Right. Okay, so if it's not all about genes, then what else is going on? What is Monteverde saying contributes to cancer?
Well, he talks a lot about this thing called the tumor microenvironment.
Tumor microenvironment.
Yeah, basically it's like the environment surrounding a tumor, nearby cells, blood vessels, even stuff in the blood itself.
Oh, and this is where that crazy rat experiment comes in, right?
You're thinking of the one where they induced cancer in healthy rats just by transferring the liquid part of the blood?
Yeah, the serum from rats that already had cancer, no actual cancer cells involved, just the serum.
Wild, right?
Yeah.
Really shows how components of the blood can actually create conditions that are favorable for cancer growth. Yeah, that's pretty mind-blowing.
It kind of changes the whole idea that cancer is just this localized thing that you can just cut out.
Totally. So I'm guessing that's why Monteverde is not a huge fan of those radical surgeries.
You got it. He's much more focused on minimizing patient suffering, taking a more holistic view, recognizing that cancer is a systemic disease.
It makes you wonder about chemo then, right?
Chemo.
Yeah, because that's known to have some pretty harsh side effects.
Oh, absolutely. And Monteverde actually points out that, a lot of patients, if they knew how they would feel during chemo, they might not choose to do it.
Wow. So if chemo isn't always the answer, what alternatives is he suggesting?
Well, he goes into a bunch, but one of the most interesting is the metabolic theory of cancer.
Yeah.
The metabolic theory of cancer. It's pretty fascinating.
So what's the basic idea there?
Well, researchers like Dr. Thomas Seyfried, they basically argue that cancer is, at its core, a metabolic disease.
Metabolic meaning it's all about how cells produce and use energy. Their metabolism.
So not just about cells dividing like crazy, but about how they're fueling that growth.
Exactly. And the theory points to these things called mitochondria.
Mitochondria, right?
Yeah.
The powerhouses of the cell.
Yeah, well, the theory suggests that dysfunction in those mitochondria is a key factor in cancer development.
Okay, I'm following. So where does the ketogenic diet come in? I thought that was for, weight loss.
You're right, it is, but it also has some pretty interesting implications for cancer.
How so?
Well, the keto diet, high fat, low carb, it kind of forces your body to switch its main fuel source from glucose to ketones.
Okay. And why is that important for cancer?
Well, because cancer cells, They love glucose. They rely on it heavily for energy.
So the keto diet is kind of like cutting off their food supply.
You got it. The idea is
Got it.
that by depriving them of their preferred fuel,
Yeah.
you can potentially slow down or even stop their growth.
That's wild. Starve the little buggers.
And Dr. Monteverde, he's pretty enthusiastic about the ketogenic diet. Even recommends specific resources for recipes and stuff.
Awesome. Well, what about some of these other therapies he mentions, like the hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
Oh, yeah, that one's interesting. It involves breathing pure oxygen in a pressurized chamber.
Pressurized chamber sounds intense.
It is, but it basically increases the amount of oxygen that gets delivered to your tissues.
And that helps fight cancer.
Well, cancer cells often thrive in low oxygen environments.
Hmm.
So the idea is that that by flooding the body with oxygen, you make it harder for them to survive.
So it's like creating a hostile environment for them.
Exactly.
Clever. Now, this anti-parasitic medication thing, that kind of threw me for a loop.
I know, right? Sounds a little out there.
Yeah, I mean, parasites and cancer, two totally different things.
Well, yeah, but there's growing interest in potential anti-cancer properties of certain anti-parasitic meds,
Like,
like fenbendazole and mebendazole.
okay, so how do those work against cancer?
It's still being researched, but some studies suggest they might disrupt processes within cancer cells that are essential for their survival.
Huh. So they kind of sabotage the cancer cells from the inside.
Yeah, something like that.
Fascinating.
Right. And then there's hyperthermia, which is using heat to kill cancer cells.
Like, just straight up heat.
Pretty much. The idea is that cancer cells are more sensitive to heat than healthy cells.
So you just crank up the temperature and they fry.
It's a bit more nuanced than that, but yeah, that's the basic principle.
Okay, I can dig it.
All right.
So we've got oxygen, we've got heat, we've got anti-parasite meds.
Don't forget the keto diet.
Right, of course. But what about these two therapies he kind of singles out? The intravenous vitamin C and the guanabana.
Ah, yes. Those are worth diving into a bit deeper.
Okay, so vitamin C. I get that it's good for you, but how does it work against cancer?
Well, we're not talking about just popping a vitamin C tablet here. This is
Nah.
about intravenous administration of high doses,
High doses meaning,
like way higher than you could get from food or supplements. At those levels, vitamin C actually acts as a pro-oxidant.
a pro-oxidant. Isn't vitamin C supposed to be an antioxidant?
It is, but at high doses, it can actually help generate substances that can damage cancer cells.
So it's like a double agent. It's good for you, but it can also be weaponized against cancer.
That's a great way to put it. And Dr. Monteverde, he's particularly bullish on its effectiveness for pancreatic cancer.
Really?
Yeah, he even suggests it could potentially double life expectancy.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, what about this guanabana thing? What's so special about that?
Well, guanabana, it contains these powerful compounds called acetogenins, and research suggests they might interfere with the energy production of cancer cells.
So kind of like the keto diet, it's messing with their metabolism.
You got it. It's all about targeting that metabolic dysfunction we talked about.
Huh. And which cancers is this guanabana good for?
Well, it's been studied for a variety of cancers, including breast, pancreatic, colon, and prostate cancer.
And how do you even use it?
There are a few ways, infusions, extracts, even topical applications.
Wow, that's pretty versatile.
It is, but it's important to note that guanabana can have some side effects, particularly neurotoxicity.
So, like with anything else, got to do your research and talk to a healthcare professional.
Absolutely.
So we've covered oxygen, heat, anti-parasite meds, keto, vitamin C, and guanabana. Anything else?
Well, Dr. Monteverde also talks about cannabis.
Cannabis, like marijuana.
Yeah, but not necessarily as a direct cancer treatment.
Okay, then what's the angle there?
Well, he focuses on its potential for managing the side effects of conventional treatments like nausea, pain, anxiety, that kind of stuff.
Makes sense. So it's about improving quality of life for patients going through like chemo and radiation.
Exactly. He even gives some tips on finding the right type of cannabis and dosage because, different strains have different effects.
Yeah, I've heard that some are more energizing, some are more sedating.
Right, so it's about finding what works best for the individual.
I like that he's really thinking about the whole person, not just the disease.
That's what's so refreshing about his approach. It's a very holistic view of health and well-being.
Yeah, it's not just about attacking the cancer cells, it's about supporting the whole person.
Mind, body, and spirit.
Exactly. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here, challenging the gene-centric view, the tumor microenvironment, limitations of conventional treatments, and then all these alternative approaches.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. Was there anything that particularly stood out to you? Like anything surprising or particularly noteworthy?
Honestly, his whole approach is just so refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really pushing the boundaries of conventional thinking and advocating for a more integrative approach to cancer treatment.
Yeah, it's about more than just fighting the cancer. It's about cultivating overall health and well-being,
Exactly.
empowering yourself with knowledge, exploring all your options, and making informed decisions that align with your own values.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And, it's important to remember that this isn't about ditching conventional treatments altogether.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's about having those open conversations with your healthcare providers, finding the best path forward for you, right?
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to cancer. What works for one person might not work for another.
It's about finding what resonates with you and what feels right for your unique situation.
Exactly.
I think Dr. Monteverde's document is it's a powerful reminder that we have more agency in our health journey than we often realize.
Yeah, we're not just passive passengers.
Right. We can ask questions, we can seek out different perspectives, we can actively participate in shaping our own path to healing.
It's about taking ownership, becoming an informed advocate for your own well-being.
I love that.
Me too.
Well, this has been a truly eye-opening deep dive into the world of alternative cancer treatments.
It has.
A huge thank you to all of you for listening and for sharing your curiosity with us.
Thanks for having me.
Remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep diving deep. So after all that, like after this deep dive into Dr. Monteverde's approach, what do you think our listeners should take away? What are the big things?
I think the biggest takeaway is that there are so many different ways to think about cancer and how to approach it.
It's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Exactly. And Dr. Monteverde, he's really, he's offering this perspective that challenges the conventional wisdom and encourages us to look at the whole picture.
A whole picture being
Not just the tumor, but the person,
right.
their environment, their lifestyle, their mindset, all of it.
So it's about more than just fighting the cancer. It's about really cultivating health and well-being overall.
Yeah. And it's about empowering yourself, with knowledge, exploring all your options and making decisions that feel right for you.
That align with your values.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, this isn't about, throwing conventional treatments out the window.
Right. It's not about saying never do chemo or anything like that.
It's about having open and honest conversations with your doctor, figuring out the best path forward together.
Because what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. It's about finding what resonates with you, what feels right for your unique situation.
I think what Dr. Monteverde's document really highlights is that we have more agency in our own health journey than we sometimes realize.
Yeah, it's easy to feel powerless when you get a diagnosis like that.
But we don't have to be. We can ask questions. We can get second opinions. We can really participate in our own healing.
It's about taking ownership,
Mm-hmm.
becoming an informed advocate for your own well-being.
I love that. So, deep divers, we've come to the end of another deep dive, this time into the world of, into alternative cancer treatments.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. And a huge thank you to all of you for listening and for being so curious with us.
And for having me. I always enjoy these deep dives.
Me too. And remember, this is just the beginning, right? Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep diving deep.